technology-wise, I mean.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, well, I will call to order the Ways and Means Community meeting. If I could get a roll call, please.
Chairwoman Sims.
Here.
Alderwoman O'Neill.
Here.
And Alderwoman Tice.
Here.
All present.
Okay, item number 2 on the agenda is approval of the agenda. I would entertain a motion for approval, or if there are any proposed changes, I'd hear those as well. All right, seeing nothing for amendments, can I get, can we approve the agenda by acclamation? I never remember this stuff.
So
right.
Yes.
All right, decreed approved by acclamation. Item number 3 on the agenda, announcements, appointments, proclamations, recognitions. There's nothing on for that section. Item number 4 is citizen comments. If there are any citizens present on this meeting and you wish to make a comment, you will have 3 minutes to do so. Is there anyone on? More crickets. Okay, moving right along.
Well, we do have a caller. I'm just
okay.
Under attendees. Is anyone wanting to speak?
No, Shelley, it's just Lisa. Sorry about that.
Hi, Lisa.
Lisa, I thought we were going to have citizen comments.
Sorry. Mute me again.
Okay.
All right, moving right along. Item number 5 is the report of committee chair and alderman. I do not have a report. Alderwoman O'Neill. I wonder if she's muted.
Yes, she is, I think.
Kathy, do you have a report? Well, if she does, I'll recognize her later on. Alderwoman Tice?
No report.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 6, which is the city administrator report. Bola, you want to lead us off with that?
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can.
Perfect. Thank you, Alderwoman Sims. I have asked, so we've developed the tentative calendar, and I've asked Karen to just review what we have, and as she goes through some of these sections, I think feel free to stop us and have a discussion further about it, and I might interject. Karen.
Yep. I just want to start by bringing your attention to the agenda item with those proposed dates on there. I think last year, you know, it got a little crazy at times, but I think November 5th is one which is our regular meeting at 6 o'clock, and then each week after that. But that again can be changed. It could be to be determined, but it kind of gives us a start. And then if you go to the budget calendar, we do this every year. I did one, updated it basically, I don't know, a couple weeks ago. And then Bola looked at it and based on what we'd heard, made some changes. But basically, if you look at the very beginning of it, July 1st through August 31st, which is about 2 months, it's the preliminary budget discussions. It sounds preliminary, but a lot of work gets done during that time. That's where we update the calendar. There will be a citizen budget forum. I think looking at this, though, we might have that scheduled at the beginning, very beginning of September. That's farther down. Then the budget parameters, which is where we have a discussion on revenue projections. And we look at the 5-year history of revenues. And then we get some direction on operating expenditures and on capital expenditures. This is kind of where the point where we get directions from this committee. We also,
can I ask you a question?
Sure.
If we have, I mean, I have liked the process in the past where we, you know, start with the revenues and then we go with proposed, you know, expenses.
Right.
Will that even be possible in August with regard to our revenue projections? I mean, and I suppose, and I thank you all for being here and having this meeting. I probably should have said this earlier. I just wanted to get on the calendar, you know, and map out, ferret out, you know, to the extent we're able, just so, you know, everyone's sort of has these things on the calendar, or
Right.
we know where we need to, revisit. So yeah, so would having that discussion in the August meeting, is that something that can even be done?
It can, but it could be the caveat that this could change. But I think I don't think we posted the we will be posting the agenda for Monday night's meeting. But you saw through June what we'd done in sales tax, which we didn't do quite as bad as we thought we would. So it would be that caveat that this is just going to be through, in August it's only going to be through what we've gotten through July, or maybe up into whatever point we have in August. So it won't be. It could change a lot towards the end of the year, especially as we all know about COVID. It's a different story every day. But if they were to shut down again, we're going to be right back in the same boat we were 3 months ago.
Would
So
it make more sense to have that at have that discussion at the September meeting? Or should we push the July or should we push the August meeting to the end of August? I want to, tailor the pace of these meetings,
right,
so that you're.
Right.
I think that would be a good idea. I
Moving
think
it
what's different this year is primarily because of COVID. Just talking to the other administrator managers and listening to different municipalities all over the country going through their budget process and doing their presentation, I'm finding out that they're having to revise their estimates multiple times during their budget process. So ideally you want to have 6 months of revenue on hand. But as you get closer to October, November, when we're going to adopt it, we have more certainty in what we're projecting. So I expect that we can have an initial discussion, and it might be good to push the meeting till the end of August. This Ways and Means Committee meeting, and then let you all know what we have. Another consideration that's going to be good, not just for this committee, but the entire board, is the fact that, there are cost containment measures within the current budget. And we're hearing from departments that would like to know if there's a possibility that the city will, that the Board of Aldermen rather, would release some of those funds. So for instance, on Monday, I'm going to be making one request. And then come September, I think, where there's greater certainty in what the past 6 months look like, then what I would like to recommend is that we prioritize for the board considerations for releasing more of those cost containment funds. Now, all of that could change based on the fact that we're hearing in the news and seeing evidence that this virus is coming back. So right now, we'll be presenting on Monday. Karen will be what the sales tax look like. You'll notice that in your packet, there isn't the financial monthly statement. So that will be part of the presentation on Monday. And it'll give you all the chance to weigh in on that. But I think we need to continue to look at that every month. It's too premature to really finalize those revenue numbers at this time, but at least we can start to talk about parameters. And what I mean by parameters is based on whether we've seen revenues come in to budget, or based on revenues coming in same time last year. If it's looking better, then still, I think there needs to be consideration where direction is given to staff to submit proposals with either a 5% reduction or a 10% reduction, and then consideration that we will plug that difference using the fund balance. So my initial analysis, and I haven't shared that with the entire committee, I've only shared this with the committee chair, Alderwoman Sims, and the mayor. I was projecting maybe asking each department director for a 10% cut. And what I want to do with Karen is go back and look at the budget and do a calculation based on each adopted budget for 2020, what that number would look like for 2021 if we say 10% cut. So those are some of the things we're going to be bringing to you every month until we're closer to a final budget. And it's just going to change based on how our revenues are performing and, the market conditions and this coronavirus, globally.
If I looked at, I just have my calendar out for August, and I see that the third Thursday of that month is the 17th, where we would have, I know we've got that special, we've got our Alderman meeting coming up on Monday. We've got a special meeting, although I don't know if this will be, I just said I'm available and I
yeah.
wave.
It's not
For
related.
the third, but by that week of the 17th, do you, or perhaps even the week after, do you think that in that time frame, some of these, I mean, I know it's a moving target and evolving, but do you think that by that point some of these things would come into focus, whereas maybe that's a good time to have that the revenue conversation, and that by that point maybe we'll have more, you know, I think like whether to take a 10% cut, for example, is certainly, we'll talk about it, but that is something that I'm sure that the board will discuss, you know, the big board will discuss, and maybe by then we'll know.
Right.
I miss.
Yes, I think, I don't know, Bola kind of said it too, moving it out later in August. I think that sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, would that work for, I mean, I'm August 20th would be that Thursday. Is that if I look at this first block about, you know, revenues, or, you know, what would happen between July 1 and August 31, does that August 20th date work? Or, I mean, I'm arbitrarily picking Thursday.
Maybe Shelley can look at the calendar. Right now on mine, it looks free, but maybe Shelley can confirm and then send something out to the committee. But right now on my calendar, I don't see, that's not to say Lisa doesn't have a meeting, for instance.
And you said the 20th?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Thursday.
which is the third Thursday of August. I don't know if that, putting it that way is helpful.
My question is that the 17th is the Board of Aldermen meeting. So if we meet after that, does that make any difference? Or
My thought process was that, you know, there may be action or direction that comes out of that meeting. We only meet once a month in the summer, and that we'd have the benefit of whatever that is to incorporate into the discussion. That was where I was coming from.
It makes sense.
There is an ARB meeting on the 20th.
Okay.
How about
We could just go to a different room. I mean, there's one tonight as well.
Right.
is that
Lisa will be tied up. If she's needed, we'll need to arrange that.
Is that a difficulty for people? You guys tell me. I don't want to. My hope in that this gets easier by doing this now. That's, you know, if I think is the 19th. No, I have public safety is the 4th Wednesday of the month. So I don't know. I mean, if the 19th is a better day and that's available, I mean, all of my summer plans were scuttled, so I'm here.
I'll have a child to move into college, but we don't know the date yet, so we can.
Does anyone have strong feelings about sticking to the 20th or the 19th? I mean, or we defer to the week. I just want to get on the calendar, so I don't book up.
20th is fine with me.
Nancy, do you have a
Fine with me.
preference?
Yep, no, I have no preference. I'm free both nights, so whatever.
Paula, is that or Lisa, if you're, I mean, is that a major inconvenience? I don't, you know.
I think the only concern is that Lisa misses out on the discussion. And so long as
that's a concern.
Yeah, so long as we don't pick this date every month, and then she completely misses out on every discussion. So,
well, I think the discussion will be, well, if you want to do it the 19th,
can we do it the 19th? I would like for her to be able to participate. You know, we're talking about revenues, and obviously some of those revenue sources are generated by her department.
19th works for me.
19th works for me.
19th isn't as good for me. What time is the meeting that Lisa would be in?
I think 7.
7.
Would we be through by 7?
Excuse me? Would we be through by 7?
If we started at 6?
If we talk fast.
You know, and while we're here, I mean, for standard meetings, I like the first Thursday of the month at 6, but budget season's a little different. I mean, I am open to, if we are able, you know, we want to meet at 5:30, that's fine by me. I mean, to accommodate.
Oh, yeah. I would love that earlier, if everybody could do
That
that.
works for me.
Sure, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
So do you think, I know, again, at some point you need a crystal ball to know if these dates are going to work, but if, I'm open to that. With notice, I can schedule at any time. It's just when the date gets closer, that gets difficult for me.
How about we put on the calendar either August 19th at 5:30 or August 20th at 5:30, and it gives us a chance to talk to Lisa, and then Shelley can send out a notice. I presume all the department directors are also available, and this gives us a chance to check in with them as well.
Okay, that works for me. Item 1 accomplished. And Karen, I think it was about 15 minutes ago that I interrupted you.
Oh, no, that's fine. Okay, so anyway, we were back to talking about, we were all the way down in the August 6th section about the property tax rates. Depending on what we have available from the county, that all depends on 2 different things. We get forms that are required by state auditor's office, and then we have to get the updated assessed values from the county. So that's what dictates when you can get that information and get it done. And then the next part is August 10th through September 11th, and that's where the departments start working with their departmental budgets and their capital budgets. I can tell you this, a lot of them start way before that. They're working on them, looking at them, particularly the capital budget part. But they get budget worksheets, preliminary year-end expenditures as of, I try to give it to them as close to, if it's June 30th, great. But if it's July 31st, I can get it. I try to give them the same as you guys, as much information as possible to help them make their decisions. But they basically get all that. At the same time, they're developing their departmental goals and objectives, their accomplishments, which what we call narratives. And then the narratives are what explains those line items. At the same time, I'm looking at the personnel service budgets, the salaries and that, working with Jason and HR. I think Jason's on here, and I think Jason already knows. Did you not find out something about loggers?
Yeah, I don't have it in front of me, but it did go up a little bit for next year. I think it was, we were at 4.8 this year. I want to say it was 5.2, but I'd have to double check.
Right. So anyway, at any rate, those things are calculated in and used to develop the budget. And then as you look on page 3, the department heads work with me and BOLA too, looking at the current level of service. But again, depending on, they, as BOLA said, they may be directed to look at 5% cut, 10% cuts, and how will that look in their budgets. And then on September 3rd, which is the first meeting for Ways and Means in September, that's where the citizens budget forum is. And maybe, I might ask BOLA to expand on that, because every year I've been here, there hasn't been very many people come and say anything at this. Is that it? Wouldn't you agree, BOLA?
Yes, so that's true, but there are many different ways of collecting that information. That information comes in through the aldermen at their monthly ward meetings, those that have it. Sometimes we receive a letter from a resident identifying what their priorities are. I remember back in 2017 or so, we received a letter from a resident, and that individual also attended the meeting. And every item basically that person listed looked very much like Brentwood bound. So, I'd like the board to address Manchester Road. I'd like the board to address flooding. I like the board to address connectivity with the parks. So different things like that. But truly, We haven't had a lot of people attend these meetings, but Janet and I exchanged emails earlier this week where we're going to start promoting it early. It's already on the calendar, and we want to give the residents a chance to let the aldermen know what are priorities for them. And you know, some of this information that department directors use to prepare their budget also comes throughout the year. It's, you know, discussion items that we have at Ways and Means, at Public Works, at Public Safety, at the Board of Aldermen, that generates what becomes a program of service that's in the proposed budget.
So is it accurate to say that at the September 3rd Ways normally scheduled meeting that, all right, so you got the citizen forum, so we'll sit, watch, and listen to that. But it's not as if we're in that stage, we're really going to be talking about any kind of review of budget submittals. So
Not yet.
So it seems to me like we should probably keep that data scheduled.
Definitely.
Because it's not as if having it later would change anything.
Right.
But I think that's an important step to listen to the people and see what they have to say. So I think I'm not seeing that we necessarily need to have move that date. Do you think that there is anything helped in the process if we have an additional meeting in September? I don't know what it would be. I just want to make sure that if you think
they could come to any meeting, you know, it just seems like the priority for this particular meeting on September 3rd would kick off, you know, hearing from the residents. There are other things on that agenda. You know, I think Karen needs to talk about setting the tax rate, the property tax rate, because you know, we have to wait for that information to come in from the state auditor, and then Karen has to do the calculation. Karen, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah. Paul was right. And that is not, getting the stuff from the auditor's office is not that big of a deal. I think they mail it or give me an email or something. Where this gets dicey in September is the county. In getting the property tax appraisal, the assessed values, because they'll tell you it's preliminary, and then as of such and such a date, we will give you the final. And like, for example, last year on the second meeting of the board, because the board has to set those by law, and we have to get them to the county, back to the county after the board's approved it on October 1st. Well, the problem is if we don't get those final numbers from the county for the assessed values, what you're approving are going to be preliminary or tentative numbers. So last year we got the actual numbers, I think the day of the final board meeting in September, and I was able to make those changes so that we didn't have to do anything different between from the preliminary and the final. But I know almost for a fact that at the September board meeting, those are going to be tentative property tax numbers, because it will be tentative assessed values. But then once we get the final, and it is something I check a week after that board meeting, I start checking to see if they've came out yet or if there's any information. That's just where it gets dicey. I think based on what happened last year, that probably by September 21st, it might be the same thing on the board day. I can update the numbers, and that will be the final property tax numbers. But yeah, Bull is right. The beginning of September, we can start having discussions of what we think it's going to look like for the property taxes and what the revenues will be anticipate for the general, library, and pension. And remember, the general is only basically from commercial, personal property, because there's no residential. I'm sorry? No. Anyway, keep going on. September 21st after the board meeting through October 2nd. After we've gotten all that information from the department heads and that, I try to get it compiled and everything. It says Karen, it says finance director, but I promise you it's more than me that puts that together. And Eric and Janet Levy can vouch for that. And we go over it to make sure it's ready to go for you guys at the October 1st meeting. updating you on the progress. And then after that, we do that. Then that's when Bola and I meet with the department heads and finalize their goals and objectives. We try to, hopefully, after what all they've heard, there's not a lot of changing at this point. Because if you look at that last sentence, will be completed within 48 hours of this meeting for inclusion in the budget document. That's a tough thing to do. So at this point, we're hoping there's not a lot of changes. And then we start the work sessions to discuss all this. And quite frankly, again, and to my knowledge, the last couple of years, it really hasn't changed. Pretty much what goes there, if we've done our homework right, that's what ends up going to the board with just a few tweaks here and there. And then the 2 meetings in the for the board to meet, to have 2 meetings to approve the budget. I think one year we approved it on the last meeting in December, but I think there was one alderman that preferred we do it over 2, and that's what we try to do. So if you'll notice on December 7th, there is a public hearing on that for presentation, and it is something, that public hearing is something that the auditors asked to see to make sure that we did that part and that we did our job. And then we're done, and then it's Christmas, and then it's the New Year's.
So you're going to need, I mean, when you start doing your budget submittals or finalizing this, I'm here, you're going to need I'm calling them parameters, well before that, so you can plunk them into your numbers, correct?
The parameters are what is used by the department directors to develop the budget, which is
right. And
yeah.
so I mean, in my mind, I'm thinking like, this is completely out of thin air. I want a 25% cut, or I want increases 10% all around. I mean, you're going to need that information.
Absolutely.
So those will be subjects that we discuss probably in
August.
August.
Yeah.
I would think that August, whatever, 19th or 20th meeting is what I would envision, yes, that being discussed.
And as far as and I don't even know if this is possible, but and I kind of defer to you all in terms of organization, but if I think of like the work sessions that happen in November and December, or most of November, is there a way where we can think about, maybe we go from easy to complex, that, we can, like, if there's some things that really aren't going to change, and let's knock those out. And that salary and, for departments or things that we anticipate that, people about which would have questions, it seems like that Brentwood Bound deserves its own day, that we can, I'm looking to set up a schedule that allows us to digest this information.
I think we can do that. I think we can do that.
And, generally, if we looked at the months, I mean, November is, how many times, I know it depends on the kind of questions that we have. But there are, what day is Thanksgiving? That is, Thanksgiving is the 26th. So there are 3 full weeks in advance of that date. I mean, if we just, those weeks in advance, I mean, if we just said Tuesdays and Thursdays we're going to do, or we just need Wednesdays, or, every Thursday, I mean, I'd like to have the time blocked out on the calendar. I'm a believer in that you can always cancel the meeting.
But you want more meetings?
Well, that I personally, when the meeting becomes 4 hours long and we start talking about different department issues, like, you lose me, and I don't think that's, and I want to avoid that. And my preference would be, if I would much rather have 5 45-minute meetings in which I have thoroughly understood the subject matter, and then we're done and we can cross it off the list.
Then let's add another meeting. Maybe between, there's the 5th, there's the 12th, there's the 19th. I mean, we could start before the 5th. we could start in October.
I mean, I'd like to have it on the calendar. Like I said, if we find that we make some really good progress and we don't need to do it, we can cancel it. And I don't think all of these subjects are created, you know, are equal in complexity. Like some of them we're going to just be able to, you know, barrel through. Others will take longer. I just want to have the time blocked out.
So when is Thanksgiving?
Thanksgiving is November 26th.
Okay, so what does October, well, it can't be the 28th. It could be the 29th. So that way we could possibly start to talk about revenues, and revenues should be, you know, pretty final by then. So we can push everything on the November 5th up to October 29th. And then that leaves November 5th to kind of spread some of the departmental presentations out. You had indicated Brentwood Bound deserves its own day. And so we can, you know, kind of do that and make these meetings shorter and more good use of your time.
And if,
I like that they're spread out week by week and not all crammed in the few days. So I like the schedule spread out like this. So thank you for that.
I like it too. I think I could go for an hour and 15 minutes maybe, but at that point my brain stops working. So
everybody's brain stops working.
Especially if we're still on Zoom.
Particularly, I've already worked today.
That's true.
That's another thing. You know, and I am in Vola or Karen, I mean, I'll defer. If you anticipate that there's a subject matter that's going to merit more discussion, then let's back into it and let's make sure we allot that time. You know, and maybe that won't be apparent until we dive into this. But you know, if you think, I honestly can't remember how many times we did this last year, because I guess maybe I blocked it out of my mind.
It was that painful.
That, you know, if having those 3 Thursdays are sufficient, you know, I suppose as the date gets closer and it looks like, oh no, we're going to need Tuesday too. I just want to, you know, if there's the trips to, you know, the cruises and the trips and the unavailability and the trials and hopefully we know that and hopefully we can schedule around it. That's, but so am I hearing that at the very least that we would probably block out those Thursdays in November?
I'll amend this calendar and send out a revised version here in a few minutes. And what I would propose is what we have for November 5th. We'll have all the same items. We'll have monthly financial report. And then under the work session, we'll have a proposed budget overview and revenue. And then we'll push till November 5th, operating budget and Brentwood Bound.
And as I sit here, you know, is 5:30 better for people? I mean,
Yes.
I'm open to anything. That's fine.
I am too. If it's better for the staff and if we can make it work, then
Right.
you know.
I think so. We'd love to go home. Yeah.
Let's do 5:30 then.
I mean, that works for me. So
for every meeting, it should be 5:30.
Sure. That's okay.
I don't have a problem with that. Is that a conflict with the space?
No, it shouldn't be. Shelley
stays.
We can have Shelley. I don't think so, but I can put that in here. That would be lovely.
Yeah, I mean so I'm hearing that works for Alderwoman O'Neill and Alderwoman Tice. That's good.
That's perfectly okay.
Okay, so
can I suggest though that on the original schedule, September 7th for the Alderman meeting is Labor Day. That goes to September 8th. It's a minor change, but do note that we probably won't meet on Labor Day.
Yes, Janet just pointed that out to me. So it should be listed at 8th instead of the 7th. Yes, so I will make that change. Thank you.
That's it.
okay. do you, yeah, okay, great. So starting on, we're gonna do the meetings at 5:30 going forward, subject, I guess, if Boley, if you think that needs to be vetted, like confirmed for conflict.
I'm vetting it with Shelley, so
Okay.
it shouldn't be a problem.
And then we've got those times set, and then what I think of as work sessions, that's going to start on October 29th, and that's going to go to the 19th. Certainly if we get through it faster, we won't have all of those meetings.
That's correct.
And then by that point, we should be hopefully in pretty good shape for a first and second reading for the budget.
Correct.
Am I missing? Did we go through the whole of the schedule?
Yep, we did.
What is sort of a 40,000 foot question, what, in terms of decisions about budget cuts, budget increases, salary, I mean, what do you need from us at this point? Should this be, I mean, I obviously think that's a conversation where the entire board will weigh in, but, what do you need from us in order to have your, okay, now I understand where I am and I'm going to now execute, or I'm going to, make my decisions according to the direction we got. I mean, so we can,
it all depends on the revenue. It all depends on the revenue and how much, if there's a gap that the board wants to tap into fund balance. It's as simple as that. If there's no change in revenue, we're bringing in the same, we're projecting to bring in the same amount we brought in last year. Let's say COVID isn't happening. Then it's a rather simple question or a process on how to balance the budget. But because of COVID, we know that as good as revenue looks, there could be other factors that impact what we bring in. So if there's a gap in how revenue pays for all your operating expenses, and you don't ask your department directors or department heads to submit a budget with some cuts in it, then that means that you're going to be spending more than the revenue you have. And how do you plug that gap? You're going to have to go into fund balance. So I think the board generally needs to look at the fund balance policy. They need to look at how much they would feel comfortable with dipping into fund balance. And also keep in mind that the ability for the city to recoup whatever amount we dip into, has substantially diminished, and the reason why I say that is, back in 14-15, we had the square TIF that paid off early. We had the point that paid off early. So that brought in an substantial amount of cash into the fund balance. So the TIFs that we have that will be paying off in, I think, 2023, 2026, the board somewhat has already committed those new revenues coming into the city to help with Brentwood Bound. So, but if the board has no concern about what percentage of the fund balance they pay, then, those are the things you all need to consider, and whether you would be comfortable approving new programs, new positions, new services. Those are what I think about when I talk about parameters for developing the budget.
And do you think that we'll have, I mean, from a scheduling standpoint, when do you see those conversations on the big board level best occurring? I mean, so
August, September, so as on Monday, when Karen presents the sales tax figures for June, and then in August, when she presents it, then I think the board should be, pretty close to getting comfortable with what the parameters should be.
And I'm hopeful, or that at that meeting, there'll be some people to tell me how comfortable I should be or not. I mean, or
No,
if you do
it's going to be up to
action,
you.
I know that, but I mean, it's something that if we do this, I mean, I'm thinking there'd be a
Yes,
running
we
of
will.
scenarios. If you
We
do,
will.
if you pull this lever, this happens.
Yes,
If you
yes.
open this door,
Yes,
you know,
we will.
so by that point, we'll have direction, and then
Yes.
we'll incorporate those
Right.
parameters. All right. Well, that makes me feel better about this process. Alderwoman O'Neill, Alderwoman Tice, do you have any questions?
No?
In terms of
Seems like a good process.
okay. Do we have anything? I mean, because I feel like that makes, we'll have guidance from the big board, and then we'll be able to proceed, and we've got our schedule. And hopefully as things come into focus, if, it looks like one thing's going to deserve more attention than the other, we'll be able to take it on since these things are on the calendar.
I just uploaded the revised budget calendar into board docs. So when you refresh, you will have it in there. Let's see, where is it? 623. That's not it. Let's try it again.
You know what I was gonna say? I don't see an attachment.
Yeah, just a minute.
Oh,
I'm talking faster than my hands will let me. So, but it will be in there. So I'll turn it back to you, Alderwoman Sims.
that was really what I was hoping to accomplish, to have a framework, early and on the calendar. So we know how to proceed. I feel like in terms of scheduling, I got my questions answered. Certainly as the dates come up, we'll have more questions then, but anybody else have questions, comments? I mean, it's not on the agenda, but do we know in terms of the CAFR, the audit, how that's coming along? Any update on that?
So it's coming along. Ideally we would love to be able to have it completed by June. However, right now it looks like it will be completed maybe. We try not to put a time frame on it anymore. It's looking more and more like August, September, and we will be preparing a memo to provide an update to the board.
Okay, as long as we're moving along. All right, I'll move on. We don't have anything for items number 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We don't have department reports. We don't have anything on the consent agenda. We don't have old business. We don't have new business. We don't have, well, I suppose if there are additional citizen comments, now would be the time to be heard. Do we no one has since hopped on.
Yeah.
All right, well, yeah, I kept true to what my goal is, that these meetings would be under an hour. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
All right, I guess all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate you, I'm hoping that this front work helps in the, and we're in the process. And I suppose we'll allow, if it comes up that we think we're going to need more time, let's, know
Early.
sooner than later.
Absolutely.
So we can just get on the calendar.
Perfect.
All right, thank you for setting.
Thank you, everyone. I'll see you on Monday.
Goodbye, all.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.